Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to learn about Python. Yes, we are going to understand the basic concepts of Python and this will help you to get started into this programming language. So let's get started. So for this particular tutorial we are going to use Google Colab as our IDE. So if you're not aware about Google Colab, just click to the description tab so that you will get another video about me explaining about what is Google Colab and how do you use the Python entities inside Google Colab. So hope that will be helpful for you. But anyways, let's get started with this Google Colab. So all you want to do is just go to Google and just type Google Colab. You'll be getting this particular option colab.research.google.com. So just enter into that particular link. So in which I'm going to use a GitHub repository, where I've stored the programs, the Python basic program, so that it will be helpful for us to get started. So I just type the my GitHub profile Deepan Rajyam. So you might get a lot of repositories inside which go to Deepan Rajyam slash machine learning, inside which you can see a particular file named uh, Python basics slash Python basics.ipython notebook. So it's typically it is inside my GitHub profile. Let me show you that. Inside machine learning, you have a Python basics and where you can see this particular program is given. Okay, so I'm gonna load this Python basics program. Okay, so this will help us get started in a lesser time so that you could use this particular programming language for any kind of application which you want. So let's get started. So as usual, for all the programming language, we should have a hello world. Yes, we are going to try to print some contents in our console. Okay, that's the first thing which we're going to do right now. So in order to print some statements, all you want to do is use the command print. So there is no other fancy keywords in Python. So that's the one of the biggest beauty point in Python. So everything is like a pseudocode, so where you don't want to remember the syntaxes. Let's say a different syntax, let's say scanf, printf, or cin, cout, or different syntaxes which has to by hearted. So but in this case, what you want to do, you just want to do print. Yes, that's what we're going to do here. So just type the command print followed by an open and close brackets, and inside which you can print anything which you want. So I decided to print some string here, so that I have given some quotes inside it, and inside which I'm just trying to say hello world, how are you. So while executing this particular piece of code, it will print this particular statement just like that. And yes, to comment few things, not to comment a particular block of statement, you could always use the hashtag, in the first place, and then you can type in any comments which you want. So this is how you can able to push a comment in your Python code. So let us try to run this particular piece of block. So obviously you'll be getting this warning because we are actually loading a GitHub code which is actually running in Google Colab. So this is just a warning that nothing should happen. So yes, as you can see, as soon as I ran it, I got the output intermediately like hello world, how are you. So the very string which I printed here is like available here. So this is the first and foremost step in Python, where how do we print and how do we comment things inside the program. Next comes the data type. So the beauteous part is the Python is like very easy to code. As I told you, it's like pseudocode based syntaxes. And yes, some overheads have been reduced to the programmers. Let's say if you want to like declare an integer or a string or a double, all you want to do is first we need to declare it and then assign it, right? So that's a huge thing which you need to keep in mind for all the programming languages. So in this case, you don't want to do that. So we are going to directly assign an integer value to a variable a. Okay, so here you can see a is equal to 12. So as soon as I give this value 12 to this particular variable a, it will automatically assigns the integer, let's say the integer storage class to this particular variable. So in that way, we don't want to explicitly initialize a particular variable. So all I want to do is just give a is equal to 12, and that will automatically store as an integer data type. So and obviously I can able to print the value. I'm going to print it out, and yes, we can even understand the actual type of this particular variable. The type in the sense the data type of a particular variable. So let me run it out. You can see like what is happening here. So you can see I just printed 12 and the data type is integer. So next thing is like I'm just declaring a float variable here. Okay, so b is equal to 1.7. Let us print it out and see like what happens here. So yes, it's 1.7 and the class, the data type is float. The next thing is string. Same, we'll be getting a data type known as str, and for boolean also we'll be getting a data type as boolean. Okay, so you can also assign multiple variables in a single line, okay, with different values. Let's say I've just given the value for ABC is like 1, 2, 3. And the next step, what I've done here is like for A, I've decided to give us 1 as usual, but for B, I have changed the data type from integer to float right now. So typically on other programming languages, you will get an error because you have assigned this particular data type in a particular storage class. Let's say the memory of it will be 2-bit or like maybe 4-bit. So if you decide to change it out, then obviously it will throw an error because that's not suitable. That particular variable which is assigned to a data type cannot be changed. But here in Python, it's very simple. You can easily assign that particular variable with a different data type. So here you can see I have changed the data type from integer to float for for the variable B, and I've also changed the data type from integer to string for the data type for the variable C. So obviously in this particular output we'll be getting type of A is going to be integer, and this is going to be float, and this is going to give us string. So let's see like whether this happens. Yes, it happens here. So we didn't get any errors even though when we change the data type of a particular variable which has already been assigned the different data type. So that's the beauty of Python. So you don't want to worry about declaring or like typecasting it to a different variable if you want to just assign it just like that. So that's the important thing which we want to keep in mind when it comes to Python. And so the next thing is the mathematical operation which can be done using Python, which is going to be very straightforward here. Here you can see like we have assigned a variable a is equal to 10. If you want to add it up, you can use the command a plus a variable or a value or something like that. So use the command plus to add, minus for divide, difference, star to multiply, and slash to divide. If I use a double star, it's going to be a power of 2. So it's going to be very straightforward, and it's like somehow the common commands which is used in all the programming languages. So let me run it out right away. You can see the output just like this. The same goes for the Boolean operation as well. So you can either use AND or even you can use an ampersand to replicate or implicate the same operation, the AND. Likewise, you can use OR, NOT, and everything. So let me run this out. We could see the output here. So like true into false will give you false. True plus false will give you true, that's right, and not of true is going to be false, and again true into false is going to give you false. So all the outputs are right, so and we are good to go with the mathematical operation. So the next, let's talk about conditions. So in Python, conditions are even made little easier and straightforward, like in the other programming languages, because we know that conditions are little important when it comes to making some decisions. So, and one thing which you want to note in Python is like there are no semicolons at each and every end of line of code, which is not required in Python. So it's like very annoying when when you need to like put the semicolon at end of each and every line in other programming languages, right? So that's not the point here, so we don't want to use any semicolon. So in order to visualize, in order to understand this condition, let us create a concept here. So I'm going to create a variable known as ticket to Mars. So based on these numbers, I'm going to announce how many tickets are available, and who can go to the Mars. Okay, so for now I'm going to keep the ticket to Mars to be 0. Okay, so based on this particular variable ticket to Mars is equal to 0, I'm going to like create some condition to it. So I've created like, let's say, as a simple syntax for if conditions, like if followed by the open and close brackets, inside which you can give a particular statement. So in this case, I've given the variable is double equal to 0. So it's all like the same in other programming languages also. The one thing which you want to keep in mind is this particular colon. As I told you, there are no semicolons at the end of the line, but this colon is like a special implication for Python that will help Python to understand that this is not a normal line. This is a special line, and we need to do some attention, or we need to gain or like give some attention to this particular line, because right after this particular colon, the Python will understand there will be an intermediary statement which is going to be assigned for that particular line or a particular function, because you can see there is a indentation for this particular condition, right? As soon as I call this if condition, there is an indentation because there is no brackets. Okay, there is no curly braces which is involved, which is also pretty annoying or like pretty confusing for us if you are going to use multiple nested if conditions. So in this case, all we need to do is indent it inside so that it will be decided to be the statement of this particular condition. So for this particular if condition, this is the statement. So as I told you, ticket to mask is double is equal to 0. So I'm going to print sadly no can go to mask. So nothing is like, no one can able to enter the particular area. So that's just an analogy. So just keep that aside. The next thing is like if the ticket value is less than or equal to 2. On that time, I'm going to enter into another if condition. It's like a nested if condition. Okay. So, and also one thing which you want to keep in mind is like for else if, you use the command elif. Okay. So it's like a Pythonic way of doing it because in Python, everything's stay as small as possible. So that's the thing which you want to keep in mind. So for elif, it's equal to else if. Okay. So I just given the command else if ticket to mass is less than or equal to 2. I'm going to create another nested if condition inside which I'm going to understand whether the value is equal to 1. If it is equal to 1, I'm going to print only you can go to Mars. So like it's like go to Mars, and else you and your partner can go to Mars, because obviously if it is not equal to 1, then definitely it's going to be 2, because we already maintained this condition 0 here. So obviously it should be 2, right? So I can say that you and your partner can go to Mars. If not, if it is not 0, if it is 1, if it is not 2, then obviously it's going to be above than some numbers. Obviously it should not be negative, so I haven't handled that particular scenario here. So but if it is a positive number, then I'm going to print the entire number here. Okay, so I just converted this particular integer into string so that I can concatenate with another string here. Okay, so I'm just concatenated, like typecasted this particular variable ticket to mask into string by using the command str, and then I'm just concatenating by using this command plus with some more strings like members can go to mask. So now let us run this particular block. So I'm going to like first initialize this particular variable here and let us run it. So you can see since the ticket is equal to 0, sadly no one can go to Mars. So if I make it as 1, so you'll be getting only you can go to Mars. So if it is going to be 2, oops, I need to like update this variable. Let me run it again. You and your partner can go to Mars. If it is like let's say 7 or 8 or something like that, then you are going to say 7 members can go to Mars. So this is how you can create nested if condition, even multiple conditions as per your wish. So let's go for the next part. That's nothing but loops. Yes, loops are also very important in a lot of areas. So we'll try to understand different loopings which is available in Python. The first and foremost thing is the while loop here. Okay, so as you know, while loop is like very useful entity when it comes to like running things. I mean, predominantly like or like I mean, permanently to do some things. Yes, you can also give some conditions inside while loop so that you could keep a check so that if something happens, we could break out of the while loop. So if you give it as true, it's going to run forever. So that's the thing about while loop. So in this case, what I've done here is like I'm just given the value c is equal to 0. So what I'm going to do is if c is less than 10, okay, if the c is less than 10, till that condition I'm going to execute this particular statement. Here also you can see I've given a semicolon here, so this semicolon indicates that we are going to deal this particular line as a special statement. So obviously I'm going to indent it to make these statements. Okay, so if you indent out, then obviously it comes out of the while loop, so like we did in this particular for loop. So as soon as you indent out, you could see that it is another statement which is not inside this particular if condition. So likewise we are going to use this thing. I'm going to print c here, okay, the value c here. And one interesting thing which you want to note down is like end is equal to nil. Okay, so in Python, generally in a programming language, when you print something, okay, so you should explicitly mention the slash n because it should go to the next line, because it will be pretty annoying to print everything on a single line, right? So you should every time you know to like give the slash n. So Python decided to do, let's say, okay, commonly people try to print some statement and they decide they will definitely go for the next line if they want to print another new statement. So this will be like automatically embedded inside the print statement. So where the end character will be is going to be slash n. Okay, so now I decided to print everything on a single line so that I remove this slash n at the end of the each and every print. So I was explicitly mentioned as end is equal to null. So this is going to print like let's say starting from 0 and ending with 9. So for after printing it, I'm going to increment this operator by +1. So you can either use c is equal to c plus 1 or c plus is equal to 1 is also equivalent operation to it. So let me run this part. This will help you understand. Okay, this is how we are printing it here. So if I like take this end out, okay, so if I take this out and I run it, it's going to be something like this. So you can even put this end value something like let's say ABC. So this ABC will be printed after each and every print statement. So you can see 0 ABC, 1 ABC, 2 ABC, 3 ABC, something like that. So even it can be a handy tool when you want to like mandatory or like give some values at the end of each and every print statement. So that way also this can be used. The next thing is the for loop. Yes, for loop is also made very simple and very intuitive for us to use in Python. So let us try to understand like how it can be done. So I'm just creating an array here. Okay, so we don't call array in Python, so we have different data structures here. We will discuss about that in a little later. But for now, I'm just creating an array. Okay, numbers is equal to 1 to 4. Okay, if you want to print all these numbers all together, a typical C program will be something like this. Let's say for I is equal to 0, I less than length of the entire array, and then I'm going to integrate increment with I plus plus. But in this case, you don't want to do that. You can just directly enumerate inside the particular array and print everything which is inside. So this can be like very very handy when you have an unknown length of an array, or let's say something like that, and you want to print everything inside, and that time you don't want to like waste your time like typing in this big of a code, right? So you can directly use for x, the variable, a new variable which is going to like take the value from the particular array in numbers. Numbers is going to be the particular array here. So it's going to start with 1 and end with 4. So we don't want to give any conditions at all. So you just give the command for x in numbers, and this print statement will print all the numbers 1, 2, and 4. So let me run it out. That will help you to understand like what is happening here. So yes, 1 to 4 is being printed down just like this. So if you decide to go for a different value, we're adding it some more values here, then definitely you can able to get that value also. So you don't want to change anything at all in your code. So that's one of the simplest way of using a for loop for an array. So if you decide to go for printing some ranges, and that time you can use the command range of x. Okay, so I just given range x is equal to 5, so it's going to be for c in range of x, which is typically equivalent to this particular function. So I is equal to 0, I less than 5. So in range of x, 5 will be excluded. So okay, it's going to be like it's not going to be less than or equal to, it's going to be less than 5 and an I plus plus. Since I didn't give any increment operator here, so just like that, it's going to assume that it's going to start with 0 and increment is going to be plus plus. Okay, so let me run it out. You can see the output. So it's going to start with 0 and end with 4. So if we want to mention, if we want to say that I need to start with some different value, let's say I'm going to give it as 1 here. Okay, so let me start with 1. Okay, so I'm going to like end with 10, and I'm going to increment with plus 2, not just I plus plus, it's going to be I plus 2. So okay, the equivalent program is also given here in C. Okay, so this is how we can able to do inside Python. So I'm going to give the command for C in range. The first argument is going to be the starting initial value. The second argument is going to be the end value, which is going to be excluded. Okay, and then the third value is going to be the increment operator. So either you can decide to go for just single parameter. If you use a single parameter, it's going to consider that as an end value. The default value will be set for the initial value is going to be 0, and the default value for increment is going to be I plus plus. So if you decide to go in that way, you just want to give all these three parameters exclusively. So let us run this point. You can see it start with 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 because it never goes to 10. If I give it as 0, okay, yes, it's going to start with 0 and end with 8 because it's exclusive of 8. It's going to be less than 10, not less than or equal to 10. Same goes for the negative decrement also. Let's say the start value is going to be 10, the end value is going to be 0. The decrement operator is going to be minus 2. So by giving this, we can start with 10 and end with 2. Okay, so that's how we can able to achieve a for loop inside Python. So it's very very straightforward and very very simple. But yes, obviously you should want to keep in mind that you will be having a special keyword colon here, followed which you're going to like indent inside. So there is no curly braces involved. So only indentation will help you to create statement inside. So in this way, it's like going to be like very very intuitive because you can able to understand the structure way more cleanly and neatly, right? So that's the beauty in Python. The another important thing in Python is the string handling. Yes, we do have n number of function which is available inside strings. So let us try to unravel some important functions so that will be helpful for you to get started. So I'm going to declare some variables here. Okay, so variable A is going to be like Elon Musk, B is going to be a space. Okay, there is a space in between. Okay, in the front point, and then it's given the value is awesome followed by an exclamation. So I'm going to print the length of characters inside A variable and the length of characters inside B variable. So let us run it out. So we have 9 characters in A and 12 characters inside B. Okay. So yes, this space is also will be termed as a character. Okay. Even in this case, we have 8 characters here and one space, so that 9 characters are available in the particular variable. Okay. So now I'm going to just concatenate it. Okay. So you can either print it by concatenating it or you can use a comma. So let's see like what is the difference between these two things. You can see when I concatenate, it automatically remove this trailing spaces. Okay, so the trailing space will be removed when you concatenate altogether. But if you decide to print it just like that, then you can just use a comma to print all the variables. You can see extra space is available because it is like printing just like that. I mean, which is given in the inside the particular variable. So that's the difference between this concatenation and a normal printing out. Okay. And yes, you can also use a print statement by using some different methods also. You can see if you want to print some variables inside your statement, okay. Yes, you can use some commas and separate variables with strings. Yes, that's also applicable, but this way it's like little programish and a little useful when it comes to printing multiple variables in a given print statement. So you can see I've used a command, a curly brace. Okay, so this curly brace will be like the entry point for the variables which is given here. So it's going to be like the same hierarchy. Okay, so the first is going to be printed in the first curly braces, so the second variable is going to be printed in the second curly braces. Same goes, I mean, as in your other programming language, we usually use is percentage %s and percentage %f, percentage %d, right, for integer, string, and float. Same is going to happen here because this might be little useful when you're going to print some float variables with some point precision. Let's say 0.8 precision means you can give it as 0.8 percentage or a percentage something like that, so percentage or something like that. So in that way you can also print the precision points till a particular stage. Okay, in that way this percentage kind of a concept will be useful. So in this case it's also similar to this format option. Okay, in this case I mean it is also hierarchically been followed. So first statement will be given to the first variable, the second percent will be given to the second variable. Okay, so let us run it out and see like what happens. You can see this is a Elon Musk and this is B is awesome. Okay, so I'm just this is A variable Elon Musk and this is B variable is awesome. You can see the I mean the value is like having the trailing space is like included in this particular format. But when I use this percentage yes, okay, the trailing space is removed actually. Okay, so just also one thing which you want to keep in mind. Okay, and yes, you can also convert your string into capital characters and even small characters just like that. You can see once I run it out, you can see all the characters have been like made as capital letters and all the characters can be made as even small characters also. Yes, sometimes it will be like very useful. So it seems to be handy for me. So I just given it out. So yes, and we do also have an exclusive function to strip down the trailing and the leading spaces. Okay, so the leading space will be here, the trailing space will be the end. So all the space if it want to be removed, we can use the command b.strip. Okay, and yes, we do have another statement known as p.replace where you can replace a particular word with a different strings. Okay, so let us run it out. You can see I've replaced awesome, okay, with the like let's say is the richest person. So only this b variable has been printed here, so a variable is not printed here. So already since have a space here, okay, so is space followed by is printed, and after which this awesome is being replaced by this richest person in the world. You can also keep in mind that I mean I haven't given any exclamatory here, but in this case the exclamatory is available here. So only this awesome has been replaced with this particular string. So okay, so whatever which you want to replace, you can directly replace by using the command the variable name followed by dot and followed by replace. And yes, you can also understand whether a particular value, let's say whether this particular statement is inside this particular variable b. Okay, so let's say let me run it out. It's going to give it as false because a variable as Elon Musk and b variable as like is awesome. So definitely Elon Musk is not available inside this particular awesome. I mean in this particular variable, right? So but if I give it as one here and this like this something like this. Okay, so we have one inside here and there. And now let me run it out. You can see it's going to be given as false because the entire thing is not available here. So if I like remove this Elon Musk altogether and when I run it out, now it's going to give me true because one is available, the entire string is available in this particular variable b. So yes, this can also be very handy when it comes to string manipulations. So this is all about string manipulation. So now let us enter into this particular data types. Okay, so we do have different data types available in Python. One is list, tuple, and dictionary. So when you have a square brackets, it's going to be a list. A square or a close brackets, it's going to be termed as a list. So I will tell you the difference between list, tuple, and dictionary in detail once you finish this list and tuple operations. Okay, so let's get started. So it's like typically an array. So that's one point number one. And that's one of the beautiest point in this particular list and tuple, even in dictionary, you can use multiple data types. So you don't want to initialize this particular list. Okay, you can just directly give a list and give any kind of data types in between which you want, because typically which cannot be done in a normal array, right? Because when you initialize an array with integer, you can just give the integer values inside an array. So in this case, that's not printed. So you can add up any data type which you want inside a list. So in this case, you can see I've printed some 5 values here. Okay, so I'm going to print it out. I'm going to give the length of values. So 5 elements are present inside this particular list. Same as if you want to print the singular element, let's say index of elements, L of 0 is going to be, this is going to be 0. Okay, so this is 0. This is like a zero indexing concept. So it starts with 0 and incrementally go till the end of the value. So it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so L of 0 is going to print me 1 and L of 1 is going to print me 2. Okay, let me run it out. So you can see it's like 1 and 2. And yes, you can also print the last value by giving the command len of L minus 1. Yes, this is the classic approach, right? Because length is going to be 5. 5 minus 1 is going to give you 4. That's going to be the final value. And yes, there is also a negative index concept inside Python where you can travel behind by using the value minus values. Let's say if I use minus 1, this is going to be 0. Okay, this area is going to be 0. If I go back here, this is going to be minus 1. This is going to be minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, and minus 5. So obviously minus 5 will not be available. So yes, we will try it out whether minus 5 is like can be shown here. Okay, so but anyways, if I go backwards, I can even use a negative value. Rather using this len of L minus 1, it's going to be a little big, right? So rather using this, I can use this particular statement. Let us run it out and see like what happens. You can see it print both the same things as 5. Now let me give it as minus 5. Let's see like whether it can able to, give me a proper output. It doesn't give me. Okay, so yes, I forgot to give the value L here. Yes, it even gives a negative index minus 5 also. So the same can be called with 0 and even with minus 5. What if I give it as minus 6? Will it again loop back? So that's a question. It never loops back because we can't, loop back again and again. So that will create a lot of confusion. So either you can go in the negative direction by minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, and minus 4, or you can go in a positive direction like 0 to the end value. Okay, so that's another thing which you want to keep in mind when it comes to list. Yes, you can also append a variable or a value inside list by using the command l dot append. L is going to be the list, right? So I'm going to append a value 6 here. Okay, so when I print it, 6 is going to be available. So if I want to remove that final value, I can use the command l.pop. Okay, so the popped item can also be printed and it can also be captured. And I'm going to append a string here. Okay, so till now we are using a integer as data type. Now I'm adding this particular, let's say, okay, I'm going to like change it and run it back. Okay, so I'm gonna like append this particular string data type into my list, so it should not give me any errors. Okay, so let's see like what happens here. You can see I have added 6 here. The entire variables are available here. Once I use pop operation, the final value will be popped out, and the popped value is going to be like captured in this particular variable item. So and I also added the string data type inside it, so it doesn't give me any errors. So this is the proof that we can able to append any data type into a list. And a slicing operation can also be very useful when it comes to arrays, particularly for list in this case. So here you can see I'm reiterating the list to be like 10, 20, 30, 40, and 60. Okay, now I'm going to slice the areas which I want. Okay, this is also applicable for strings. Okay, so you can use the same content for string also. Okay, so in this case, what we are doing here is like I'm just starting with 1. So you can see L followed by 1 colon of 2. So if it is 1, it's going to start here. It's going to start here. It's not going to end here because this is going to be excluded. It's going to be like lesser than 2. Okay, it's not going to be lesser than or equal to. It's going to be lesser than 2. So obviously I'm going to print 20 as the output here because it started with 1 but ended with 20 but exclusive of this particular value 30. So only 20 will be printed here. If it is 1 colon of 3, it's going to start with 20 and end with 30. Obviously, the 40 is going to be neglected because it's exclusive of 3. Okay. If I give 0 colon of nothing, it's going to start from here and then till the end of the particular list. Okay. Same goes for minus 1 also. If I give minus 1, this is going to be excluded, because if I give it as empty, everything is going to print it out. Since I give it as a negative index, it's going to start with 0. It's going to end with 60, but it's going to be exclusive of 60. So it's going to print till 50. And same, if you want to print the entire list just like that, if you have multi-dimensional indices, okay, on that time you can just use a colon. So everything which is inside this particular list is going to be printed out. Yes, 3 is to 5 is going to print me like it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So only 40 and 50 is going to be printed out. So let us run it out to see like what happens actually. So yes, 1 is to 2 is going to print as 20 here. 1 is to 3 is going to print as 20 and 30. Entire thing is going to print it up here because 0 colon of nothing. And minus 1 is going to like supposedly like exclusive of 60. So it's printing till 50 here. And yes, if I don't give anything, just with just colon, it's going to print everything here. And 3 colon 3 is to 5 is going to give me 40 and 50. So this is how you can able to do some slicing operation inside your list. And as you can also do some sorting here. Okay, so if you want to sort your numbers, if every all the data types which is available inside the list is like a integer, you can sort it up just like that. You can see it's like sorted up. What if I give a float value? Well, let's sort it. Let's see like what happens here. So yes, it's going to sort out the float values. But if I like make it as a string, well, let's sort. Let's see what happens. It's going to throw me an error because obviously string and integer cannot be like can be used as in an instant when you're going to like sort it out. So you can use a float, you can use integer to sort just like that. Okay, so it's like sorted out perfectly. And yes, you can also do this reverse sorting. It's not going to be like ascending order, descending order sorting. Okay, so I mean, if you're going to give reverse is equal to, it's going to I mean sort in the descending order. Okay, so start from the bigger value and end with a smaller value. And if you have a like let's say if you have some strings inside a list, and if you want to sort it out, you can't sort it out actually because strings cannot be sorted out. So you can make it a reverse it. Okay, you can use the command a dot reverse to reverse the string. Let's say ABD will be first, Warner will be second, Sachin will be third, and Dhoni will be fourth. Okay, so if you print it just like that, it's going to be first Dhoni, Sachin, Warner, and ABD. Okay, let us run it out, see like what happens here. Yes, ABD, Warner, Sachin, and Dhoni. And same goes, you can also use a command a dot count of 0. Okay, so let me show you the output here. So 0, there is no 0 inside this particular list. So I just got a value as 0. If I use 22, because 22 is available for 2 times here. So if I run it out, you can see it's going to get, okay, so just forgot 22. Yes. Let me run it out. So you can see two instances are present here. Okay, so two 22s are present. So if I go for 11, it's going to be only one instance. So if I don't give if I give a value which is not at all inside it, it's going to give me 0. The same thing which you saw earlier. Okay, so this is how these are the important functions inside list which you can use it as per your wish. The same goes for tuple actually. So all the operation which is available in tuple, the only difference between list and tuple is like list is mutable and tuple are immutable. When it comes to mutability and immutability, you can change anything which you want inside list, but you cannot change anything once you declare the tuple. Okay, so then what advantage does this tuple have? So that's one important thing which you want to keep in mind. So I could say that it's like much faster and secure because you have designed, you have allocated a memory, a static memory once you like done with the tuple, right? So if it is a static memory, then I mean the time required to access those static memory is going to be like little faster. But when it comes to list, it's going to be little different here because obviously you can say that it's going to be like dedicated to a data, I mean to a dynamic memory, where in that case definitely it will take a little more time to get into to that particular list. So I could say that tuple are much faster than list. So if you decide to go for a memory constructive or memory lesser program, then definitely you can go for tuple. But yes, there are advantages and disadvantages of using tuple and list. That's up to you to decide. If you want to, if you have constant changes in your list, in your array, you can go for list. If you don't have any constant changes and you decide to make it faster, then you can definitely go for tuple. So that's the thing inside. That's difference between list and tuple. So you can see just declare a tuple here. So only difference is like it's going to have a open brackets. Okay, so open brackets will be like given here rather of close brackets, the square brackets for list. So let me print it out. You can see everything is going to be the same. The type is going to be tuple. If I want to print the first value, it's going to print the first value. Okay, it's also zero indexing. Everything is going to be the same. So yes, you can also use the same operation like min, max, even in list also. Okay, so it is also available in list, yeah, also in tuple. Okay, so maximum value is going to be 500. Yes, minimum minimum value is going to be 200. So based on the values, it's going to give me which is the maximum value or something like that. Okay, and yes, you can. There is another provision where you can able to convert to a list into tuple, because once you feel like your list is done and you don't have any updates to do it, or you can convert the dynamic in memory into a static memory so that it can be accessed much faster. So by using the command tuple of L. Okay, so now let me run it out. Initially, the data type is list, right? Once I convert it into tuple, the data type become tuple. So that's also another important hack which you want to keep in mind when it comes to converting list into tuple and vice versa. Okay. So next thing is dictionary. So the dictionary is like much different than list and tuple. Yes, it is a different data structure handler where it always assign things on a base of key and values. So followed by a colon. So when you have a colon in between, the first value is going to be key. The second thing is going to be a value. Okay. So followed by a comma, it's like somehow similar to the JSON allocation. So let's see like how do we use a dictionary and how do we iterate between the keys and values to do multiple different operations. So first things first, let us try to understand the type of this particular dictionary, and we'll try to print a particular key based on its value. So let me run it out first. You could see it here that, okay, so we haven't ran this one, so that we're getting an error. So you can see the classes data type is dictionary. For the key value, for the key one, the value is Captain America. So once I printed the value D of 1, which is not the index value 1, which is going to be the key. Okay, so whatever key which is given here, the corresponding value will be printed here. Okay, so that's how we're getting this. So if you want to print both the key and value, you can always use the command. Let's say if you iterate it inside, okay, you'll be getting the key initially. Okay, so you won't be getting the value actually, so you'll be just getting the key. So all I can do is get the key and use the value, use the function d of key. So obviously the dictionary of the key will give you the actual value. So you can directly print both key and the value just like this. Yes, you can also use the command d dot items. So, but before that, I'm going to replace Captain America with Hulk. Okay, and now I'm going to use the function known as d.items. So this will give two things as an output. Let's say both the key and value. So rather getting the key and then using the key to print the value, it's going to be three lines. So you can just do it in a single line by using the function d.items, so that you can get the key and the value just like that. So let me run it out. So obviously we'll be getting one Hulk, two Iron Man, and three Thor. And then finally we're going to introduce the villain. D4 is going to be Thanos. And then I'm going to like print down all the items here. Okay. And then I'm going to pop out the villain out of here. So, okay. So D dot pop of 4. That's going to pop out the value Thanos out of the picture. So this is how you can able to use a dictionary. Yes, as I told you in the beginning, it's like somehow similar to a JSON allocation. So obviously you can able to convert a JSON file into, I mean, directly read it in the form of dictionary, and you can do a lot of wonders with the help of dictionary. Okay, so this is how the data structures are being handled inside Python. Yes, we do have also have another data handler known as set, which we will be covering in a next tutorial. Okay, so this is the basic part so that you can able to understand the basic notions of Python, and this will help you to get started with Python. Okay, the next thing is pretty important thing, which is nothing but exception handling. Because when it comes to, I mean, let's say you are going to like create an application, if it has some errors, and because of that, if it comes out of the function or a function or an application, then definitely there is no point in creating an application, right? So we need to always have an exception handling so that no other catastrophic event will occur that will stop the entire application. So how do we do that? So we use a command known as try and an except block. Okay, so in this case you can see you can use a normal exception just like using the value except without any values like this, or you can give a specific exception for different types of error which you'll be getting. So let's say here in this case you can see like it's like y is equal to 10. Okay, I'm just initializing a value y is equal to 10 in a variable y. So I'm going to try this particular thing. Okay, I'm going to try to print the value z. So since z is not allocated here, so it's going to give me an error. That's one thing. Second thing is like I'm trying to divide y by 0. So I'm having this two problem here. Okay, so one is like some thing is not been declared here, but I'm trying to print that, so obviously it's going to give me an exception. And also there's another error known as value error. So let's something like you will be getting an infinity value, right? So I just captured one name error here. Okay, so if I get a naming error, I'll be like going inside this particular except block. If not, I'll be like going inside this particular except block. So in this case, here you can see I've just used a command except of exception, okay, as E. So this is going to capture what kind of exception it is so that I can able to understand what exception has it handled and how do I mitigate in the upcoming version of my application. So let me run this out to give you a clear idea. So now you can see, I mean, let's say if I give a value z is equal to 10, okay, so I'm going to allocate z is equal to 10 right now. So in this case, you will not be getting this value error because obviously, I mean, since z is not being allocated with some variable, so it's just give me a name error because name is not available. So that eventually give me a name error. So because of that, I mean, I entered into this particular exception and I like handle that particular error. So, but after this line, okay, if I like assign a value, so obviously this is going to print me some value 10 here. And after that, if I multiply or if I divide y by 0, obviously I'm going to get an exception which is nothing but divide by 0. So this is also a error which will help you to understand that okay, I got a division by 0 error. So I need to like look onto my code where it has actually happened. So in this way, this exception, variable can able to get the actual error and we can able to print it out to understand what kind of error it is. So in that way, we can able to understand what kind of exception we are handling right now. So this is how an exception handling can be done. And yes, but intriguingly, what we can do is we can also have another statement known as finally. So with this finally block with something like will be executed whether it enters into the try block or into the except block. So it's like it's not like I mean it will be like executed for both the blocks. Okay, if I try to print the s character, so obviously s is not being initialized, so I get entered the except block here as like something is wrong, and finally I'll be printing this one for sure. Now let me add a variable s. S is equal to 10. Okay, in that case, try block will be executed and finally block will also be executed. So no matter what, where it goes, whether it is a try block or an except block, this finally block will be executed. So this will also can be like very useful when you are going to like create some precondition after end of each and every loop. And that time this finally block can be much more useful. And finally, we can use a command, we can use a function much more easily when compared to other programming languages because you don't want to enter any data type, the input data type and the even return type data type doesn't need to be given in the Python. Okay, so all you want to do is just use the command def. This will create a function, followed by a function name, your unique function name which you're going to use in your program, and followed by the input parameter. So if you have any input data that is going to accept inside the function, you can mention it directly here. Okay, so what I done is like I just created a function as squared using that I can able to get an input for the function and I'm going to multiply it 2 times so that it's going to be like 2 power like x power 2 something like that. Okay, so I'm going to square the number which is given and I'm going to print it out and I even returning that particular variable out. So I can call the function like squared of 4. So this 4 will be entered into this value x and the resultant value, since I given a return type here, okay, so automatically I can get the result here. So I don't have any data type which is assigned here. Okay, so I can directly give the input, process the input and get the output by giving a variable assigned to it. So now let me define the function first and then call the function. Let's see what is happening. So here you can see I got the value. I just given a function squared of 4. Since I use a print function here, so it is printed here. And then I got the res variable, which is actually captured the return type of the function. And I'm just printing it as result is comma of yes, and the value is going to be result is 16. So this is how you can directly, get an input, process and even give an output in Python. So it's very, very straightforward. So if you have multiple inputs, then you can just give it followed by a commas. Okay, so in that way, you can, let's say you can even do it like this. Let me give it as Z here. I written Z also now. So in this case, if I run it out, okay, so I need to give two parameters here. Since I give only one parameter, it's going to throw me an error. So now I'm going to get some output like this. So it's very, very straightforward and very, very simple. You don't want to worry about the data type involved, nothing at all. So all I want to do is focus on the function and the input parameters and the output data type. That's it. That's more than enough to create a function. So this, I guess this is more than enough for you to get started with Python with Google Colab. Yes, you can do even a lot of great wonders with the help of Python. You can do a lot of automation. You can go into AI, data science, and networking, and lot other areas also. So if you feel like if I miss something, let's say if you want to know, if you want to understand any other functions or algorithms or something like that inside Python, just do let me know in the comment section so that I'll put another video based on that. Until then, peace out. Thank you.